It's time to turn your life-challenging moments into life-changing messages. Welcome to the Power Lift Stories podcast, where we are interviewing women whose stories will leave you lifted up, fired up, and fueled up with hope, courage, and inspiration. We want to thank our sponsor, Powerful Journey, who helps women tell their stories, write their books, and building a profitable brand around both. Join the masterclass or the Speakers Academy at phyllisjenkins.com. That is PHYLLISJENKINS.com. Now here's your host, Phyllis Jenkins.
Have you ever wanted to start fresh, like pick up everything, move to a whole new state, and start all over, but things didn't go exactly how you had planned or desired? That's the story of our next guest, Miss Evony Thomas. Evony, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Miss Phyllis. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I am honored to have you. And Evony and I were talking just now. We have not seen each other in how many years has it been?
It's probably been 3 years at least.
Okay.
So
Evony,
2.5, 3 years.
Evony went through the Powerful Journey Speakers Academy, and she spoke at our women's conference locally here in Plano, Texas, as well as on the road in Shreveport, Louisiana. And so her story has blessed many women already, and we know that today will be no different. So let me introduce Evony, formally introduce her, and then let her share her story with you. Evony Thomas has spent her early childhood in Chicago, Illinois, before moving to Cairo, Illinois. She recently resides in Irving, Texas. Evony is a senior pursuing a bachelor's degree in management science and a master's degree in systems engineering at Southern Methodist University. This girl is tough. An avid connector and visionary, Evony focuses on cultivating her skills in communications, strategic planning, and leadership. She is currently involved with the National Society of Black Engineers, SMU chapter, and the Lyle Mentoring Program. Evony enjoys spending time in the presence of God, dancing, listening to live music, reading, cooking, traveling, and spending time with family and friends. Evony, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm loving the fact that you have this platform, Miss Phyllis, and I'm so happy that you thought to reach out to me. So thank you.
Well, your story is amazing, as our listeners will hear in a minute, and we have enjoyed having you at our conferences after you graduated from the Powerful Journey Speakers Academy. You spoke on our stage in Plano, Texas, as well as on the road in Shreveport, Louisiana, where you changed many lives each time. So I know that today will be no different. And before you start sharing your life-changing story, if you would please share what your title would be of your story and why.
Yes. So the name of my story during the time of the Powerful Journeys Conference would be Advancing in Adversity. And I would like to continue to go off of that. And particularly, pursue, overtake, and recover all. One of the things that Advancing in Adversity got me to thinking about was being proactive and being on the offense to take your goals and your dreams where you want them to go. And it really reminds me of that story in the Bible where David got the word to pursue, overtake, and recover all. So that would be the title of my story.
Love that. Love that. With that said, would you please share your life-changing story?
Yes, absolutely. So at the end of 2015, I decided to move from Missouri to the Dallas, Texas area. And at that time, it was July of 2015 when I got the true confirmation. Like I knew that it was time for me to make the transition, and I knew that I needed to make it rather swiftly. So from July to November, that was the time frame that I had. And by November, I had my books and my clothes loaded up in my car, and that brought me to Texas. It was one of the most unique things that I had done at the time. And I kept thinking about Joyce Myers and her sermon about do it afraid. And so that was one of the things that really helped me to drive drive myself from Missouri to Texas, was the understanding that yes, I'm stepping into uncharted territory, but this is what I know that God has ordained for me at this time, and I'm ready to go and see what this journey has for me.
Wow. Speaking of a brave young woman, because how old were you at the time?
Yeah, so I was 27, turning 28 later on in
Okay.
November. So
Yeah. Well, what a courageous act that you took on. And so you packed up everything, and you moved to Texas. What happened after that?
yeah, absolutely. So once I moved to Texas, I was seeking God's favor and say, okay, God, now you brought me here. What's next? And I really felt the the leading to focus on development and refinement of the things that I've been naturally blessed with. And just so happened, because I ended up being a college dropout, if you will, during the 2007, 2008 housing crisis. So many different things changed. And one of those things changed was my college status. But when I moved to Texas, it brought back that long lost hope because I ended up living right next to a community college. And I said, well, I can take some night classes while I'm working during the day. And that was one of the first things that happened during that process. Now, the interesting thing about this was I moved to Texas in November 2015. By April of 2015, I'm already thinking, okay, I'm getting back into school. Well, April 8th of 2016, excuse me, I'm sitting at work and I get an instant message through my job's instant messenger saying that your apartment has burnt down to the ground.
Wow.
And so now I found that I was starting over, moving to Texas with my books and clothes, and all of a sudden, those books and those clothes that I brought to Texas, I no longer had. So I planned the first start over, but the second start over was the thing that really kind of caught me off guard. But I think because of that courageous first step, it helped me to understand that I could start over again.
I love that. And I also love how you said you were a college dropout, but as it happened, you moved right across from the college. So it was like the college university was in your face. So it reminded you of what you needed to finish. And what horrible news that had to have been to receive a text telling you that your apartment had burned down and that you had lost everything. So what did you do from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing that I knew that I needed to do was keep moving forward. Around the same time, it was like God was bringing so many different things that could keep me encouraged in my life. One of the things that He brought into my life was an Easter dinner where I found out about the Powerful Journey uh, conference and the academy that you host. The young lady who told me about it, she was just going on raving and raving about it. And so I thought, well, this is something that I can really look into. So immediately, that was one of the things that I connected with to help me get through that hard time. And then another thing that I had was just a lot of support and family. And my brother, he was even on the news during that time. And on the news clip, he had this really powerful saying at the end when they asked him, well, what is next for you? And he said, I know one thing, I'm never going to give up. I've had to start over before, and I'm never going to give up. So those were some of the things that helped me to get past that journey. And then I was determined, more determined than even before.
Well, determination will take us far. Not only were you determined, but determined in all of this, you stayed focused. And for a young woman, that is amazing. You didn't even think about going back to Illinois. You just continued to think, I'm moving forward and I'm not giving up. So what happened after that? And it blesses my heart to hear that the powerful journey was part of the encouragement that helped you, because it was such a joy to have you in the academy, and to hear that the encouragement motivated you to move forward. That's what we're there for.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Some of the things that being a part of the powerful journey did for me was it gave me a set of tools, because I knew that there were certain things that I needed to accomplish. I had the understanding, I just didn't know, I didn't have the how on some things. And that's the beauty of coaching and mentorship and even partnership with other skillful people. I really believe that iron sharpens iron. So being
Yes.
in that type of environment is something that helps you assess and really be able to elevate the things that you know that you need to elevate in your own life. Now, something that transpired even after I first got connected with Powerful Journey and my time for my first class of school, which was going to be August the 29th. It was Monday of 2016. And I was in Walmart in Grapevine, Texas, picking up a calculator because I'm thinking, okay, this will be the first time I'm excited about school. I have not been in a learning environment in a very long time. I'm thinking about engineering, but I haven't been in a math or a science class in over 10 years at this point. So this is kind of unnerving, if you will. Well, I was excited and nervous and all of that all at one time. But you know what? That trip to Walmart forever changed my life. Because I walked into Walmart looking for my calculator. But when I walked out of Walmart, I had lost my brother. While I was in there shopping, I was in the store with my mom, and I'm on the other side of the store, and I hear her screaming my name. And my mom, she walks on a walker, so I'm thinking, well, did she fall or what's going on? So I'm running over from the calculator section over to the section that I had left her, and she gave me some news that broke my heart and it jolted me. Something that I didn't know how I was going to go into the next day and deal with, because now I went from preparing to be a person that's working 40 plus hours a week, that's also going to take a full-time course load, to someone who is the family member of a victim of violence, um, the oldest child, feeling that responsibility to want to be there for my mom, for my siblings. And then not only that, I had a nephew who had just turned 1. That's my brother's child. And so all of these things kind of snowballed into one thing right as I'm transitioning back into my coursework. And I can remember going home that Monday or that Sunday night, and then the next day on Monday going to class. Uh, because I didn't know how to email my professors, and I just told them, I say, I'm might have to miss some things because I need to take care of some family stuff. But honestly, I didn't miss any of my coursework during that time, and I just felt like this was the way to honor my brother, especially considering the fact that he has a 1-year-old nephew. I have a 1-year-old nephew, and he has a 1-year-old son. We have to be the example that perseveres and that pursues the things that God has given you, even on the other side of something that could literally and justifiably take you out of the thing that God has given you to do.
Wow. Every time I hear that story, it is just amazing how you kept going and how God gave you strength and how you kept your focus and even to continue in school. Um, just that's God at work, and God reveals himself through our life experiences. So, Evony, how did God reveal himself through these tragedies?
Yes, I would say that one of the things that I was able to get a lot of clarity around was just the pure need for nothing in this life but Him.
Wow.
I can remember one of the classes that I was sitting in, we were doing an exercise, and the professor was giving one of these philosophical things, trying to expand our minds. He had us to write on 3 strips of paper the most important things in our lives, and then he wanted us to prioritize them. But he didn't tell us this on the other side. He just said, "What are 3 things you can't live without?" And ironically, I found myself writing God on all 3 pieces of paper. So on the other side of the assignment where he says, now I want you to get rid of the 2 things that you feel that you could live without in lieu of the one thing that you absolutely couldn't live without. I found that I didn't have to get rid of anything that I could live without because I had already understood. After losing someone so close to you, you understand that life goes on, whether you want it to or not. It it's gonna go on. Time's gonna keep marching on. And so it was just really the presence and the power of God that could bring me through those things. And I knew that. I didn't. It didn't matter how much love I had for my mom or my siblings or my nephew or anybody else. I understood that I could live without them if for some reason I had to. I might not want to, but I could. But God, on the other hand, there's no way.
I love that that you wrote God on all 3. That speaks volumes for you, but also to our listeners, because how many of us would have written God on all 3 of those sheets? And for you not to have had to let go of anything, but it was because of what God had brought you through that you could list him, put his name on all 3 and not get rid of anything. So to our listeners today, that's an activity that I would challenge you to do as well. And then look at your answers and take away 2 and see what one is left that that you can't live without.
Yes. And Miss Phyllis, if I could also add this too,
Yes.
it was my first year in Texas. It was a lot of detachment. First of all, I had to detach from the familiar of being back in the Midwest, close to family, close to roots that I have grown up with. That was the first detachment. Then here it is, April, just a few months after this. I've lost everything that I had, including like baby pictures and all of these memories that we love to keep going. I lost all of this in the fire. Now, what I did mention earlier was that June, because I had gotten another place and I had gotten a couple of things since the fire. Well, someone broke into and vandalized my home and took those things that I had gotten after the fire. These were just things, but it was that moment in August that helped me to understand that, wow, all of those things, even the baby pictures and the memories that they say you can't get back, it could not really prepare me for the loss of my brother. He was 22 at the time, and I had spent the year becoming painfully and acutely aware with detachment and understanding the power of Max Lucado has a book talking about traveling light, and I was always fascinated with that book as a young girl. And I spent a lot of time in 2016 understanding the power of traveling light. So then fast forwarding, coming to this moment in time where I'm doing this exercise, it was just simply one of those things. But if I hadn't gone through some of those things, then I too would have written all of those wonderful and important things on my strips of paper. But
Wow.
but God.
But God, absolutely. The power of light, traveling light. And in the middle of this pandemic, I think that's probably a lesson that if we haven't learned, that we should learn the power of traveling light. Well, Evony, just a powerful story and an amazing young woman you are. I want to end by asking you to imagine that you just stood on stage, which you've done many times. You stood on stage and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women that heard this very story. And at the end of the story, they all stood and gave you a grand applause. But now they have all walked away and the curtains have closed. Evony Thomas is getting ready to walk back to her vehicle to go home. What 3 things do you hope that every woman walked away with?
Yes. So I would say that one of the things that I would want them to walk away is the power of a pivot.
Mm.
And this is my word for 2020. I always ask God, what's my word for this year? And this year he said pivot. And I was thinking about what this meant. And I used to love to play basketball. And one of the things that the pivot means in basketball is that you are stuck in a place, but you know how to maneuver in a way to give yourself more options to advance the opportunity. So when I say pivot, I want you to understand that even if you're in a tight place, there is a design in place where you actually have more options than you might see. Another thing that I would want each woman to walk away with is don't be afraid to fail. And don't be afraid to go after the things that you know that God has ordained for you to do. Um, we need it in the earth. I would even say that you need to show up for yourself, because if you're listening to this, I know that you are the type of person that has the tenacity and the zeal to do the things that God has placed in you to do. So showing up for yourself and showing up for others in that powerful way is not an option. It really is. It is a part of what gives you life. One of the things that I talked about at the Powerful Journey Conference was that you can be alive in this earth realm and be dead to the purposes on your life, because a lot of people just stop pursuing the things that they know that they should be doing. And I want to encourage everybody that I can to get out and get after the things that you know that you're supposed to be doing. Add that value. Leave this earth richer with who you are. And then the third thing that I would encourage each and every woman with is simply have some grace. Have grace with yourself and with the world around you. Sometimes we get so caught up in being fast and being first and all of the appearances that we just simply forget to step back and receive some nourishment for our own souls, for the things that are just true to us on a individual level. And honestly, I think that has been a huge part of what's made me have the clarity and have the ability to keep pursuing a degree in engineering after sitting down to school for so long, is just simply having that time to pause and sit with myself and to pray and to be forgiving if something didn't go the way that it went for everybody else, and to just get back up, and keep going after the things. Like I told you, is pursue, overtake, and recover all. So those are the three things in essence. You have to be in a place of mobility, not necessarily just physically, but spiritually and mentally, and on all levels. We have to be thinking about how do we move this forward. We can't be lethargic and we can't be passive in this thing. Active in the things that God has given us. Overtake means that we didn't come to play. We understand that there is a treasure, that there are things that should go with pursuing. And we're not looking to come back empty handed. And so once we overtake, because when I think about overtake, it really gives me an image of I'm gonna have some obstacles. I'm gonna have something that might be opposition. So I'm expecting this. But what I know at the end and what I'm encouraged about, because I know how the story plays out, is that I'm recovering all. So when I walk away from this thing, I have, without a shadow of a doubt, that which I went in for, and even more, because sometimes some of those no's we got along the way, some of those bumps and those bruises, turned out those were the things that really shaped and shifted the thing that God has for us in the most optimal way. I can't even tell you enough how many times the failures simply helped me determine a couple of things: how bad I wanted it, or it put me on the course for the thing that God had designed for me, and not just the thing that I thought that I was good enough for.
Let the church say amen. Evony Thomas, you are full of wisdom to be such a young woman, and I'm grateful to God that He has allowed our paths to cross. And wow, you have said so much today to our listeners. And to our listeners, I just want to say that as you heard Evony's story, you saw how determination kept her going, and how she kept her focus in the midst of all the tragedies that she experienced. Well, we are launching on December 20th, 2020, the Water Walking Masterclass. And if you are listening to this today and you have allowed fear to keep you from moving forward, you have accomplished much, but you're ready to accomplish more and need some support, then this masterclass is for you. We are going to roll up our sleeves like never before, and we are going to help women to move forward with their life purpose, their businesses that they have started or wanted to start. So there is a link below, and we would love to have you come and join us in the water walking masterclass. It is a 7-month intensive, and the title comes from Matthew in chapter 14. And I think you might have even mentioned Peter getting out of the boat and walking on water toward Jesus. And so I'm encouraging you to get out of your boat of distraction, your boat of comfort, your boat of disruption, your boat of you name it, and come and walk on water with your life assignment. And as Evony said, leave this place richer than you came. And Evony, again, thank you. So great to see you again. And I know that God has so much more in store for you. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you for joining us today. If you are interested in being on the show, go to phyllisjenkins.com. You can also sign up for the Powerful Journey Masterclass or the Speakers Academy at phyllisjenkins.com.